What's up, everybody? Welcome into A to Z Sports Picks. Brian and I are going to have a great show for you this Friday. Get you all set up for the betting weekend. Brian, my man, how we doing, sir?
Doing great, man. Happy Friday. Let's do this.
Happy Friday to you as well, and everyone out there watching. We sure do appreciate you. Welcome into A to Z Sports Picks. I'm Alan Bell of CBS Sportsline, alongside Brian Edwards of VegasInsider.com. A to Z Sports Picks is brought to you every Tuesday, or actually every Friday, by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. New users, make sure to download that BetMGM app now. It's no run first inning Friday. That's right. Bet no runs to be scored in the first inning of any MLB game, any of them, and get up to $25 back if only one run is scored. That's BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years or older. Must be present in the state of Tennessee. For gambling problem support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789. All right, Brian. So this show is all about the Tennessee Volunteers and the SEC as well. You know we're going to mix all that in. But first, we want to talk Tennessee because college football is right around the corner. So what we're calling Put Up or Shut Up, Vols edition. All right, I'm going to ask you a couple questions here. Give me your answer. We'll go one by one, each of us answer it, okay? First up, Tennessee win total. Over, under 8. Over 8 is minus 105. Under 8 is minus 125. Your thoughts here, buddy?
So I initially marked them 5-3 with 4 swing games. The swing games being at Pitt, which DraftKings has them favored. I think it was 5 or 5.5 last time I looked, and another swing game being Florida, which actually I said that wrong. It's Tennessee's favored by 5.5 against the Gators at DraftKings. At FanDuel, Tennessee's favored by 4 or 4.5 at Pitt. And then the other swing games, they get an open date and then they go at LSU. I've got that being a swing game. And then they've got Kentucky at home. I will note that Kentucky gets 2 weeks to prepare for that game. Tennessee will be playing its 4th game in 4 weeks. So just a slight, situational advantage for Kentucky in having 2 weeks to prepare. So, then, you take those 4 swing games. I mean, they're favored against Pitt and Florida. I have a hard time, 1-16, last 17 against the Gators. I have a hard time picking them against Florida. They can definitely win at LSU. Kentucky at home, I would lean Tennessee. So I think they probably go 8-4, maybe 7-5. It's a pass for me. If I had to say one or the other, I guess I would say under because 7-5 is a possibility. I think 8-4 is probably more likely would be a push.
Yeah, look, I think you're spot on exactly with everything you just broke down. All right, swing games: Pitt, Florida, LSU, Kentucky. Those 4 right there. Added Alabama and Georgia. Let's just go ahead and count those as losses, right? So that's 10 wins. Just follow me here. That's 10 right there potentially. Okay, I think Tennessee is better than Pitt, but you got to go on the road to do it. I think Tennessee this year is better than Florida, but again, like you mentioned, you're almost dumb for picking Tennessee to beat Florida, like just the historicals of it, right? So those 2 right there, I think Tennessee's better than LSU. I think Tennessee's better than Kentucky. All right, so if they go 2-2, right, that's 8 right there. Like, I think that this is an 8-4 team as well. The number has jumped up. It was 7.5. It's jumped up to 8. I think 7.5 on the over was a great play. 8, I think essentially you're playing for the push, right?
Right.
And you could go with it either way, exactly like what you said about playing a push and putting your risk, like leaving that on the over, like you taking the under. Smart. I think it's a smart play. Like I would follow pretty much what you broke down, right? Like
now,
go ahead. To end it. I think this is an 8-4 team. I think this is absolutely an 8-4 team, and I think playing this, if you're playing it for the push, why are you even playing it? Like I'm with you. I'm not doing it either. Go ahead.
Well, just for any of our listeners that are wondering, because I said 5-3 with 4 swing games, who's my other loss besides Alabama and Georgia? I actually have Tennessee losing at South Carolina, but that's a very winnable game. I mean, Tennessee could certainly win that game. I just gave it to South Carolina because it's on the road pretty much. But that's a winnable game.
Yeah, no, totally. Like I get what you're saying, and like I'm right here with you in the sense of this. Like it's the same thing with NFL. Like when you try to go game by game, when it's August 19th, right? It's difficult because you just have no idea what these teams are going to look like when that game comes. Tennessee could be severely injured. South Carolina could be severely like you just don't know. But your overall thought process, I'm with it, that it's the same thing that we're going to break down for some other teams here, like, Georgia or Alabama. Like, you're essentially betting, are they going to go undefeated? We'll talk about it, but there's risk there. You just sometimes don't know where that risk is going to be. Who would have thought Texas A&M against Alabama, right? Like, you just don't know. So I get your thought process there. Totally understood. All right, now let's go to the SEC East, okay? And let me get these odds here on the screen for you. So Georgia's the favorite, minus 500. Kentucky's second, plus 900. Tennessee third, plus 1,100. Florida fourth, plus 1,300. South Carolina, plus 3,000. Missouri, plus 5,000. Vanderbilt, plus 50,000 to win the SEC East. What's your pick, man?
I mean, I'm certainly not laying minus 500 chalk, but I think Georgia is going to win it. I don't even now. Kentucky does get Georgia at home. Now, who knows if they'll be – so if they're only one game back and they were to win that game and tie them, they would hold the tiebreaker. But Kentucky's offensive line is not going to be as good as – I think they've had like a top 10 O-line the last couple of years. They lost a lot of studs off that O-line. I mean, I like Levis, but they're really going to miss Wan'Dale Robinson. So, I mean, it's Georgia, but I'm not implying I would lay minus 500.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
like, there's no way that I'm betting minus 500, but I mean, who else are you going to take? Like, unless Georgia just has a catastrophic issue.
Like, injuries galore. They can overcome 4 or 5 injuries. They would have to lose 7 or 8 starters, I think.
Yeah, that's the hard part, man. Like, I'm with you. Like, there's no bet. I'll say this, and we're going to get into it here in a little bit. If you're going to bet Georgia to win the East, you're better off just betting Georgia to make the college football playoff. Not saying that they automatically win the SEC, but I think that if they win the East and are 11-1, 12-0, they could lose the SEC title and still get in. And you're going to get those odds at plus or around even money, right? So, yeah. Yep. All right. Now, to win the SEC, all right, let me put this up here. All right, I'll just read off a couple of them. Alabama, minus 140. Georgia, plus 140. A&M, plus 1,600. Look at the divide between those two and everybody else. Tennessee, plus 4,000. Ole Miss, 4,000. Kentucky, 4,000. Arkansas, 5,000. LSU, 5,000. Florida, 5,000. And it gets worse from there. Vanderbilt, plus 100,000, by the way, if you're looking to get rich off a crazy bet. But, yeah, there you see right there the odds to win the SEC. What are your thoughts here?
So, if I had to pick it, gun to my head, do I live or die? I'm going with Bama. But, if you want to just throw $10 or $20 out on a super duper duper long shot, what about Mississippi State, man? They only lost 14 lettermen. They only go 7-6 last year, but they had 3 gut-wrenching losses because of their field goal kicker and a bad call at Memphis. 9 starters back on defense, 8 on offense, veteran quarterback. They get Georgia at home in a tricky spot for Georgia. Georgia, 2 weeks before they go to Starkville, they play Florida and Jacksonville. The week before, they play Tennessee. And then the week after, they're at Kentucky. So depending on how the SEC standings are going, those are the games for Georgia where they eliminate Florida, they eliminate Tennessee, and they eliminate Kentucky if they're not already eliminated. And Mississippi State is just right there in the middle. That could be an upset spot for Georgia. That may be where they lose if they lose at Mississippi State. So maybe 100-1 on Mississippi State for fun. I think they're going to be good. I think they've got good receivers. I think they got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And when Mike Leach has a 3-year starter at quarterback, he's won 9 games, at least 9 games every time. So just for giggles, maybe throw a little bit on Mississippi State at 100-1, but it ain't gonna happen though.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I you know what? I believe Nick Saban when he said that last year was a rebuilding year. It was. Like, he's not lying. Like, this is one of the few times where, like, they actually bring back most of their guys. I know they lost wide receivers, obviously, but yeah. And it's one of the rare times where Nick Saban actually got to keep coordinators. Like,
right?
He
Yes.
rarely gets to keep one of his coordinators. He gets to keep both. Now, I know
Isn't this going to be actually like another O'Brien? This will be O'Brien's what? Third year there? Like he didn't lose coordinators last year either. Whereas
he didn't lose
before that, he was losing them like every year.
Yeah, Pete Golding, their defensive coordinator, he's been there. And I know that there's some Bama fans that don't like Pete Golding. But yeah, man, like, you know, Bill O'Brien is second year, I believe. Yeah. Like he normally really honestly doesn't get to keep one.
Yeah, second year. I'm sorry. My bad.
You're good.
You're right.
And he's keeping both, right? Like I think that's going to help.
It's fourth year for Golding this year.
Yeah. And he's bringing back his quarterback. He's bringing back his best defensive player. Yeah. Like, it's hard for me to fade Alabama. Like, I would bet Alabama minus 140 for sure. Because you're not gonna get Bama on anything like that low of a number. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't have a dark horse. Like, I'm with you on what you said about Mississippi State, and I like you going down the list because I don't think A&M is going to do it. I don't think Tennessee's going to do it. I don't think Ole Miss. Like, I'm out on all those. Like, you might as well kind of pick one lower if chaos is going to happen. Now, I will say this. You brought up Georgia and that spot after Tennessee, they play Mississippi State, correct?
Yep.
Let me say this, and I saw a little bit of it last year, and I think that you'll see a little more of it this year. It's not a bad look to fade teams after they play Tennessee because they might win the game against the Vols. But Tennessee's offense is such a different animal than teams are used to at all. Like, your defense gets gassed. Your defense, like, we see injuries in terms of that. Just keep an eye there. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, Tennessee upsets Georgia or anything like that. I'm just saying Tennessee's such a different team that you kind of have to prepare differently in terms of that game just because your usage rates and your player snaps are completely different than any other game you're going to play. So I follow your logic there. Like that makes a ton of sense. I like it. All right. Now let's go across the SEC here. Let's talk about some more win totals. All right. And I did this on purpose. The first one, those Florida Gators. All right. Over 7 minus 135, under 7 plus 105. What are your thoughts?
So, look, I like Florida starters. I think depth is going to be a major issue. And, you know, you can say this with every team in August, if they stay healthy, if whatever, you know, in reality.
Let me pause real quick. Like,
go ahead.
So everyone understands, like, that's understood. We're all like, this is all of no catastrophic situations, like just everything on board, on table. Yeah, absolutely. All right, keep going, sir.
But I was just going to say, like, that's just not reality. You're not going to stay healthy in a SEC season, you know, and I just don't think Florida's backups. I think our starters are good. Look, the depth at wide receiver and on the D-line is very, very limited. You know, now I will say this, Florida goes 6-7 last year, but they were plus 1,235 in net yardage. They were -9 in turnover margin. Richardson and Emory Jones combined for 18 interceptions. So they had horrible quarterback play. Turnovers were costly, and they were losing a ton of close games. And if you have horrible quarterback play, you lose a ton of close games, and then you start getting really good quarterback play, you can flip things quickly. So I think there's the potential for Florida to maybe win 9 games. I would say 10 is definitely their ceiling, but a lot of things have to fall into place, and Anthony Richardson has to be an absolute star. But I do think there's that potential. I think he you know, if he stays healthy, I think he could be the breakout player in the SEC. So I initially marked Florida 6-1 with 5 swing games. The 5 swing games, 3 of them right out of the chute, man. We're going to find out in September. Utah and Kentucky at home and at Tennessee. Like I mentioned earlier, Tennessee's 5.5-point favorite in games of the year. Florida is a 2.5-point dog currently to Utah, and they're currently a 4-point home favorite to Kentucky. Chris Rodriguez, their stud running back for Kentucky, might be suspended at that game. We should know more on that in the coming weeks. LSU, another swing game. FanDuel and other books have that Florida favored by anywhere from 3 to 4.5. The Georgia game, that game is anywhere from 14 to 15.5. Georgia favored, obviously. And then it's a brutal spot at Texas A&M the week after the Georgia game. A&M's favored by 7 in games of the year. And then I think Florida will win at FSU, but they're actually listed anywhere from a 1.5 to 3-point dog in games of the year. I would slightly lean to the over, but I'm not really recommending playing it because if Richardson gets hurt or the D-line gets hurt, it's not going to be good.
If Richardson goes down, it's over.
Like, oh, yeah, and if you didn't know, or you probably know, but our listeners might not, the Jack Miller, the 4-star recruit to Ohio State, has been there the last 2 years but didn't play much. We got him as a transfer, our backup. Thumb surgery. He's probably out until like mid-late October. That news broke last night. So it was already if Richardson gets hurt, we're in trouble. Now if Richardson gets hurt, we have nobody who's taken one career snap behind him.
Yep. Yeah, look, I look at it the same way as Tennessee. If Hendon Hooker goes down and you got Joe Milton, good luck. I mean, dude's got a cannon, but you don't know where that thing's like. It gets bad in a hurry. Look, I think the same thing with Tennessee. What we just talked about. I think Florida's 7-5 probably on average. Like if you simulated their season 10 times, I think 8 out of 10 they go 7-5. Right? I'd lean towards the over. I like Billy Napier. I think Florida has an opportunity to play a little bit better than people might think. The depth is a concern. But back to what we talked about with Tennessee, I think you're playing this, especially at an even number of 7, right? Like, no hook. You're essentially playing for a push. So no play
Don't
for
make
me.
Bets if you're looking.
Yeah, I think this number is market efficient. Like I think that this number is perfect. And that's why I don't want to play it. So I'm with you on there. I think you're spot on. All right, Texas A&M over 8.5 is -170. Under 8.5 +140. All right, I'll go first real quick. You let it rip. Like I don't know A&M's depth chart as well as you do. What I do know is that Jimbo Fisher's a crazy person. Sometimes it's good. He is. Like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's awful. I think that he is feeling immense pressure down there to win because A&M has invested so much money. And this whole
I think he's right on par with Sumlin. Maybe like one win more at this point in Sumlin's tenure. I mean, it's not a whole lot of difference.
No, it's not. I'm not playing the over. I think that they're an 8-4 team. I'd play the under here. It's not enough for me to actually throw money on it. So I'm not saying go play it, but if I had to, I'd take the under. I could see this thing unraveling, and especially around that Alabama game, because I don't think Nick Saban ever goes into games wanting to blow people out and make a point to them. He wants to make it a point to his team, right? Like he'll use the media to do that a lot. I think he absolutely goes in wanting to whip his ass. Let me just say that. I think he wants to do that. I think it became way too personal, became way too much, and Nick Saban does not call the dogs off, and that could be problematic.
It's going to be an absolute bloodbath.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think that I think Nick Saban could actually kill that locker room. I think he could absolutely do that. So I want nothing to do with A&M. I'd bet the under or nothing. What do you think?
Yeah, I lean to the under. I think they're probably an 8-4 team. I think they're a year away. I think Max Johnson is a little bit above average quarterback in the SEC, but nothing more than that. He's been pretty good, nothing great, but certainly not horrible. I mean, he led a comeback drive in the last minute to beat A&M in Baton Rouge last game. He played, and I assume he's going to beat out Haynes King, but I don't know that. Look, we only saw Haynes King. He got hurt early in the first quarter, week 2 against Colorado. The week before, he threw 3 interceptions against Kent State. So, look, all these 5-star guys that they have, look, they might all make an impact, but they're not going to make nearly as big an impact as they will next year and in 2024. So I just think this team's a year away. Probably go 8-4. I lean under. I will say that they are 16.5-point underdog to Alabama when they're going to get smashed October 8th. They do get their open date afterwards, so they do get an extra week to shake that L off. But I mean, they've got losable games like at Mississippi State.
I think that's actually a bad thing. Like,
What the hell?
not to interrupt you. I think that's a bad thing. Like, I
They're
think
not
that
be able
if
to get back on the horse.
I think if they get smashed and they sit there and think and stew on it for 2 weeks, I actually think that's a bad thing for them.
I get that
going,
train of thought. And look, the next game at South Carolina is potentially losable. They got a lot of losable games on their schedule. They got to play at Auburn. I think they're a 6 or 7 point favorite in games of the year for a home game against Miami. Hell, the week 2 against Appalachian State is not a layup. So I lean under.
Yeah, that's not a layup at all.
It's not.
App State's going to fight you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's go rapid fire through these next 3. All right, first up, Georgia. Over 11, minus 130. Under 11, plus 100. What do you think?
If I had to pick it, I'd go over. I mean, I think, like we said, we've said it a couple times, barring, catastrophic injuries, they will be favored in all 12 regular season games. So I'd lean over.
Yep, I agree. Georgia's schedule's nice for them. If they get past Oregon, which we all assume that they will, not saying like it's easy coasting, but their schedule is much more favorable than a lot of other SEC teams. I agree. Especially at 11. If it were 11 and a half, I think I'd lean under because one loss and you win. But now that you've got an even number at 11 with no hook, I'm with you. All right, Alabama, same thing. Over 11, minus 140. Under 11, plus 110.
I won't be shocked if they get tripped up once. The same with Georgia. But, I mean, if I think the Ole Miss game is kind of a tough spot for Bama because they're at LSU the week before and Ole Miss gets 2 weeks to prepare. But so I think that might be their toughest game, but it's over or pass.
Yeah, it's over for me. I'd bet this over at 140 because even if they get tripped up, which I like, I'm with you. We talked about it. Like it's tough to project who it will be, but it's difficult to go undefeated. Like even some of Saban's best Alabama teams didn't. Right now, some of the other teams aren't as strong as they once were. But yeah, like I'll take the over because even if that one kind of weird loss happens, you're still gonna push, right? So I bet on the over and risk it that they get there. All right, last one here. Kentucky, over 8, minus 115, under 8, minus 115. I think the books put this number perfectly. What do you think?
I do too. I've got them going 8-4. I think they're going to push on this. I initially marked them 6-1 with 5 swing games at Florida being 1. I'm going to make that an L because Rodriguez, I believe, is going to be out. I think he's going to get a 3-game suspension, but they do have a really good backup in Kavosi Smoke. I think they're going to lose at Ole Miss. Out of home against South Carolina and Mississippi State, those are not going to be easy. At Tennessee, I would lean to them losing that one.
That's the game. Like, that's the game for both Kentucky and Tennessee.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier. Kentucky actually has 2 weeks to prepare for that one, so just a slight advantage there. And I just don't see them beating Georgia. No. So I think they go 8-4. It's a pass for me.
Yeah, it's. I'd actually lean under. I think Kentucky might be getting too much love at a point. It especially like what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to watch it. If it goes to 8.5, I'll take the under. Like
they're going to really miss Wan'Dale Robinson, man. He was so key to everything that they do. I mean, they've got a good transfer from Virginia Tech, Tavion Robinson, who's got 30 career starts, 1,555 career receiving yards. But I mean, he's just not Wan'Dale. Look, Wan'Dale is going to fall out for the Giants as a rookie this year, I think.
He's a stud. Absolutely. I completely agree. All right. Now, let's get into the college football playoff here, and we'll go really quickly, rapid fire. Then we'll get to our bets. Let everybody get out of here and enjoy their weekend. All right, so quickly. Georgia, yes to make the playoff minus 120, no minus 110.
I mean, I would have to lean yes.
Yep, I'm going yes too. Alabama, yes minus 280, no plus 225.
I'm not betting it, but for sure, yes.
Yep. Ohio State, yes minus 280, no plus 225.
Not nearly as confidently is with Alabama or Georgia, because Georgia's a minus 120 rather than a minus 280. But I do think Ohio State will make the playoff, but I would certainly not risk minus 280. And it's not a guarantee, but I'll say yes nonetheless.
Yeah, agreed. 100%. This is the most difficult one.
Yeah.
Clemson. Yes, plus 150. No, minus 180.
I think they got the best defense in the country, but I haven't seen Cade Klubnik, the 5-star incoming freshman quarterback, play. And look, watching a couple of clips on Twitter from high school doesn't do anything for me. I got to see him against live bullets, against college competition. DJ Uiagalelei, they got to go to the freshman if he struggles early, because Uiagalelei was just bad. I mean,
bad. I agree with you. I don't trust Clemson at all. They could be fantastic. Their schedule, besides I know they play Notre Dame. Other than that,
at Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I think Notre Dame's going to be a little bit better than people think too. Their win total is only 8.5. I think they'll be all right. But yeah, I don't trust Clemson. They might get there.
For me. It's a no for me on Clemson.
Yep, agreed. All right.
But now I will say this. Now, if we get into September and by week 2, week 3, this 5-star freshman Cade Klubnik looks like the real deal, forget that. That's the key to handicapping. I think.
They'll go undefeated.
Whatever opinions you have in August, allow yourself to have your mind changed by the eye test. Especially a quarterback.
Yep, 100%. I completely agree. They're Clemson is if you were standing on the edge of your roof, right? You're kind of doing this. You could fall off, break your neck, or lean forward and you're golden, right? Clemson could either go undefeated or this thing could all ravel apart.
Their defense is going to be ridiculously good.
It's going to keep them in a lot of games. It's not like they're playing Florida, Tennessee, Alabama schedule either, right? But yeah, man, I'm with you there. All right. Last segment of the show. Our best bets for today, for the weekend, anything. Let you go first, man. What do you got?
Okay.
Do you have me to go?
Ready? I'm looking at these props for UFC. Let me kick it back to you if you've got yours ready.
You're good. All right. So I've got, 5 plays here, all for today. All right. First off, MLS. I'm going Los Angeles, Seattle, both teams to score. It's juiced at minus 180. If you don't want to play it there, play the over, the game over 1.5. You'll get it at a much more attractive price there. Playing the Braves team total over 3.5 today against the Astros. Now, I played it this morning on CBS Sports HQ, and right after it, I see that Ozuna gets a DUI last night. So they're coming off a really energetic series against the Mets. They won 3 out of 4. This happens. Be careful there. But I think that the Braves bats, whether they win or lose, I think they can get to 4 runs. Play the Guardians team total over 3.5 against the Chicago White Sox. White Sox just burned all of their pitching against the Houston Astros. Oh, and they gave up 21 runs last night. I think Cleveland is going to get after Chicago here in terms of runs at the plate. Give me the Mets team total over 3.5. And tonight in the NFL, Panthers, Patriots under 39.5. I'm going to tell you why. Patriots, their offense, training camp, been a mess. Disaster. It's not looked good. They barely even know their play caller. And it might be Matt Patricia, who's the defensive coordinator. The Panthers are not playing Sam Darnold. They're not playing Baker Mayfield. They're going with a quarterback situation where one plays the first and third quarter, the other plays the second and fourth quarter, which seems insane. Why don't you just do 2 halves, right? So you're not going hot, cold, hot, cold. Yeah, give me the under in that game. All right, throw it back to you, man. What do you got?
Okay, so UFC 278 in Salt Lake City tomorrow night. The main event, Kamaru Usman against Leon Edwards. It is they've never had a fight in UFC history where the combined winning streaks for each fighter is as much as Usman's 15-0 in the UFC. Edwards is on a 10-fight winning streak. I think it's going to be a tough fight for Usman, but right now, in my mind, he's the pound-for-pound best. And I think it'll be a tough fight, very competitive. But Usman's on such a roll. He's a little too expensive, like minus 360 on the straight price. But the prop for him to win by KO or TKO is anywhere from plus 230, or let's see, our friends at BetMGM, they have it plus 175. So anyway, but you can get it north of plus 200. And I think Usman, some point, maybe third, fourth, or hopefully not the fifth, because we'll be sweating it. I think he will get the finish KO, TKO. So Kamaru Usman, prop to win by KO.
Nice. I like it. Well done, sir. All right, everybody. That's all the damage we can do for today and for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Keep the conversation going. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Let us know what you're betting. Hey, you know what? If you got a good one, dude, I'm in. I'll ride with you. Let's go. Yeah.
Hey, let me throw out a little plug for a new podcast I'm doing with Vegas Insider, BetCFB. If any of y'all want to listen to that.
Yeah, where do we find it?
Pods, check it out.
Yeah, where do we find it?
So BetCFB. It's just like there's the Vegas Insider symbol. Just anywhere you get your podcast, just BetCFB, college football, obviously.
Yep. Apple, Stitcher, all of them. You name it. All right. We'll look forward to it.
Sir.
All right, everybody, thank you so much again. And as always, best of luck. It's Cashy's Tickets. We'll see you next week. Thanks.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Good luck.